Aloha everyone, and welcome to Deep Conversations with Hyram. If you aren't familiar with this new series I'm doing, I am honestly just making videos about topics I'm really interested in and deep diving into them. Really dissecting topics that I find fascinating from a social, anthropological, cultural perspective. And in today's video, I want to talk about men and beauty and why they are seemingly polar opposite. That seems like a contradiction, says the person that is fully addicted to beauty products. And I want to say thank you to Google Ads and Shopify for sponsoring this video. If you are someone who's a business owner or is interested in becoming a business owner, you're going to want to stay tuned to hear more about that. I really want to talk about the connection or lack thereof between men and beauty and why, from a cultural standpoint, at least in the United States, they are so different and why there's a stigma when it comes to men expressing themselves through beauty. I'm super excited to dive into this one because it covers a lot of different topics that I think are really relevant to the specific tie. And it's probably going to be a longer one, so get your iced tea, get your coffee, make a cocktail, sit down and relax because we are about to talk about something that is very controversial. And before we start, I want to say if you have any topics that you think are really interesting that you'd love for me to deep dive into, please comment them down below. I will be making videos based off of your guys' suggestions and would love to hear from you. So let's get into it. So this is a big topic, right? And I bet you're wondering what inspired you to want to make a video about this topic. The main thing being, one of the main questions I get asked, whether I'm in a press interview or whether I'm talking to you guys and you ask me this question, is how is it being a male in the beauty space? Do you get a lot of criticism? Do you get a lot of hate? Do you ever not feel included? And I find it really interesting that it is a common question I get asked because truthfully, the answer is no. I've never not felt included or rejected my community, and I'm really grateful for the incredible amount of support that I've seen online in pursuing, my interest, skincare. Of course, there will always be the people in the comment sections that reject me or criticize me or just purely hate on me for making videos about cosmetics, specifically as a male, but it's really only fueled my desire to make more content, to show other guys out there that it's okay to be interested in beauty, it's okay to be passionate about makeup, skincare, cosmetics, whatever it may be. It is okay. But I'm really interested in these questions because it reveals an issue that is currently present in our society in the way that it judges or accepts males in the beauty space. Not just from a creator or influencer perspective, but in the way that males interact with beauty on a day-to-day basis. And this specific relationship with beauty and wanting to show other guys out there what's possible really played a huge part in me personally creating my own brand, Selfless by Hyram. I wanted to create a brand for the reasons I've already stated before, wanting to make a positive difference in the world and empower people with the best skincare routine possible, but also to show other guys what's possible and that if I can, go on to create my own beauty brand, they can definitely do that too and see success through it without any shame. That no matter the societal expectations or rejection that you may see from entering the beauty space, you can still see a lot of success and love from so many people by entering it. And in building my business, there was a lot of different tools available to me online that I could use, and one specifically that I want to talk about and is today's video sponsor. Today's video is thankfully sponsored by Shopify's Google channel. Are you someone who's a content creator, you have an online business, or you're thinking about starting an online business? Because if you are, you've probably used Shopify in the past. I know I have. But say you're using Shopify to list some of your products, but you're looking to grow your business. Well, you can use Shopify's Google channel to access the millions of people that use Google every single day and to get the attention your brand deserves. The Google channel makes it easy for you to reach millions of people that already use Google to find the products that they need. You can upload your products to Google directly from your Shopify dashboard. You can list your products for free on Google. You can run paid smart shopping campaigns to promote your products, and you can even track all of your results directly from your Shopify dashboard. The best part, it's completely free to download directly from the Shopify App Store. Get your products discovered with Shopify's Google channel. Install the app today. Thank you so much, Shopify's Google channel, for sponsoring today's video, and let's get on with the topic. Skincare is something I love talking about because it revolves around mental and physical health. Taking small moments in your morning or in your evening to just disconnect from the world, focus on taking care of yourself, and having that really powerful meditative moment. Focusing on taking care of the largest organ on your body, your skin, can be really therapeutic. I've noticed a special connection with skincare that runs deeper and really connects to mental clarity. But there's a time that I didn't realize that. I too, as a product of my environment and upbringing, saw skincare and cosmetics as something solely for women and purely as a luxury experience and not something like investing in your health. I saw something like using skincare or makeup as a man was something really controversial and, if anything, meant to be kept to yourself. And if you guys don't know my story, I was raised in a really traditional religious environment where anything that was straying from the norm was looked down upon. Taking care of your skin or putting on makeup was something that was seen as very effeminate and a social taboo, if you will. And even though in my upbringing I rejected a lot of the messaging that was constantly around me, it still ran deeper than I thought and led to some stigmas that I personally had against the cosmetic world. And nothing illustrates this more than the first time I walked into a Sephora. I had started to become interested in beauty YouTube and was watching a lot of beauty YouTubers because I thought it was just so interesting and fascinating and something that I did want to participate in. But that first time that I went to a Sephora and walked inside, I felt severely insecure, out of place, like it wasn't meant for me and like I was doing something bad or to be ashamed of, rather than embracing it as an interest. And thankfully I had such an incredible experience at that Sephora, which led to me purchasing my first products. And when I went home and put on, the tinted moisturizer for the first time, it was the very first time in my life that I had ever felt beautiful. And it was such a powerful experience that it led to me not only becoming a makeup artist and then getting into skincare and of course creating YouTube videos and launching my own brand. And it's interesting that even though I've always considered myself to be pretty open-minded and very willing to reject any stupid societal expectations, there was still a stigma, insecurity, and fear present within me that affected the way I even got interested into the whole world of beauty. Why did I feel such feelings of shame and embarrassment when I just wanted to feel beautiful? Why in the world and online is there still such animosity towards men who want to take care of their skin or put on makeup? And why is skincare, as opposed to other aspects of taking care of your health, seen as something so stigmatized by men? These are the questions that I'm going to be dissecting in this video and really exploring why men have a stick up their ass and can't just enjoy skincare. And when I say men, I'm largely referring to cis hetero men. But this perspective isn't isolated towards that group alone. A lot of gay men are included in this. I mean, have you heard of the term mask for mask? Proves my point. Masculinity is such a powerful predatory expression that is not only present in the demographic that is attracted towards women, but also present in the community that isn't. This shows that to present as masculine is a power play in any vicinity, regardless of whether you're heterosexual or homosexual. I'm sure many of you have noticed this, but there's a lot of shame rooted in the soul affinity to anything remotely feminine because it directly contradicts the idea that masculinity feeds. As one definition puts it, masculinity is the importance that power over women had in the formation of a man's identity. So where the hell does this masculinity come from? And I realize delving into these topics of traditional patriarchy and masculinity and the way that men interact with women that I am a man. I unfortunately benefit from the patriarchal system that is still prevalent in our society today. And it's seriously fucked up because women are such incredible, capable beings and deserve every single opportunity that men get, if not more so. So of course, I will never be able to truly empathize and understand the experience from a woman's point of view. But as someone who has thankfully been able to stray away from the traditional path of masculinity and patriarchy because I am a homosexual, not to mention my personal experience entering the beauty space as a male, I hope my perspective at a minimum can spark some positive and necessary conversations. I know online a lot of people throw around the term toxic masculinity, but where is it really from? Where did it begin and why does it have such a strong grip on so many men in our society? Because as much as the idea of gender roles has been around for thousands of years, the specific masculinity experience is something that is more recently developed, especially in the definition as we see it today. And when I was reading through the history of masculinity, I found it to be quite contradictory, if you will. Very, very interesting. In the 1600s through 1700s in Europe, there was an intense cultural expectation of patriarchy within the home and family, but socially there was a disconnect. An estimated 54% of men ages 25 through 29 were single. Yet the societal expectation of manhood remained, thus creating room for an insecurity surrounding measuring up to societal expectations. AKA, every man was expected to be manly and wifed up, but that really wasn't the reality. And where did this expectation come from, you might ask? Largely Christianity, but we'll get into that later. As this insecurity began to build and take form, it resulted in an ideal that was largely sexist and patriarchal in nature. Masculinity started to be about power over women, both physically and sexually. And power over women and sexism is by no means a modern concept. It has unfortunately been around since the dawn of time. But the social standard of masculinity and manhood really began to show symptoms that were commonplace among men experiencing this insecurity. What? Masculinity is insecurity? I would have never guessed. And consequently, this control over women meant not subjecting yourself to their practices as a public testament of strength. But as with all abusive forms of power, there's a deep distrust and rejection of anything affiliated with empathizing towards the individuals it oppresses. And that primarily includes feminine expression through beauty. That brings up the question, is beauty inherently feminine? Is acknowledging and focusing on physical appearance considered feminine? From my personal experience, growing up in a very, very traditional environment, there was at large a rejection of acknowledging physical appearance by men who presented as masculine. Like it was an embarrassment by manly men to appear at all like you care about your physical appearance. In my community, cis hetero men would mock or belittle any man who simply invested into or took the time to take care of their physical appearance because of the vicinity to femininity. The irony is that a lot of these guys who would mock other men for caring about their physical appearance would, in personal settings or in the locker rooms when they think no one else was watching, sheepishly check themselves out in the mirror to make sure that they were looking good. So clearly they cared about their physical appearance, they were just too ashamed to admit that. Or on the worse end, would so drastically reject the affinity to caring about their physical appearance that it was deeply rooted in insecurity. They were so ashamed and fearful of what other men would think that in public and private, they wouldn't take any time at all to focus on their physical appearance. This is when the topics of men not showering or cleaning their buttholes would come up. But I don't want to make fun of anyone. It's a tough, judgmental world out there, I get it. But I am judging a little bit. But it just shows how deep this insecurity runs, and in making all of this effort to appear like they're not focusing on their physical appearance, these men are in turn hyper-fixated on what other men will think of them in order to uphold this idea of masculinity and manhood. Kind of a double contradiction, wouldn't you say? And I mean, who's not to say that this entire idea of masculinity is rooted in insecurity? But I'm getting ahead of myself. So if these men whom I was surrounded by growing up actually did care about their physical appearance, what else could it be? And how do cosmetics fit into this? A lot of men, specifically keyboard warriors that I see all the time in my comment sections, like to talk about how they aren't interested in cosmetics or think cosmetics are dumb because they don't care that much about their physical appearance and they aren't that shallow. But clearly from what I've been able to see, they do care about their physical appearance. And they're too ashamed to admit that they do. So if men at some level do care about their physical appearances, what else could be contributing to this disconnect between men and beauty? Is it that cosmetics are solely meant for feminine expression? Well, let's take a look at my favorite topic, history. Oh yeah, baby, we're breaking out the history books. Don't worry, I promise I'll try not to make it as boring as your 8th grade history class. If cosmetics are meant as an expression of femininity, let's take a look at ancient Egypt, where eyeliner was very popular among men, particularly royalty, and used as an expression of wealth. Or ancient Rome, where men wearing blush powder and nail polish was extremely common. Or England in the 1600s, where lead-based face powder was all the rage. Or even consider, and this may be triggering to some men, since the conception of TV show and movies, all male actors wear makeup. So clearly, history shows us that men using makeup as a form of self-expression and in their careers is completely normal. So if a focus on physical appearance is commonplace and men have been wearing makeup for thousands of years, why have things been so different in recent history and today? Why is something like wearing makeup or sporting nail polish or using skincare seen as feminine? I think there are many reasons why this is still the case, but there are two main reasons that stick out as the primary contributors to this idea. First, capitalism. Yep, we're going here. I think capitalism deserves its own moment of criticism because of one primary factor: marketing. Since the age of industrialization in the USA, marketing has played a huge role in not only the way that we consume products, but in shaping our societal values and ethics. Marketing has not been around for that long. I know it's easy to think of ancient societies having huge billboards and running ads playing all the time, but marketing is really only a recent concept due to the age of industrialization that we've experienced since the early 1900s. And along with that, modern materialism is a recent concept as well. I remember when my US history teacher in high school talked about materialism and how we've only really been interested in having a lot of stuff for like the past 120 years, and it blew my mind. With the age of industrialization came mass production, and whereas with previous eras only the ultra-rich and royalty could have access to excess, it introduced the opportunity for society at large to consume really as much as they want. This desire that we have to buy more, own more, create collections really only started with the era of rapid industrialization in the early 1900s, which is weird to say because it feels inherently human for us to want a lot. Mass production really created this consumer experience. In The Rise of Marketing and Advertising by Blackford and Kerr, they say, the maturation, am I saying that right? Maturation of advertising in the 1920s and the creation of marketing departments and marketing strategies by major firms both promoted consumer values in American society and reflected the rise of the consumer society. In 1919, advertising costs were 8% of total distribution costs in the industry. By 1929, the share was 14%. In that latter year, advertising costs reached nearly $3 billion. Compare that to the now estimated $249 billion spent on advertising alone in 2020, the United States continues to be the highest spender on advertising. So with that, it's not surprising that marketing and advertising would heavily influence the way that we as consumers view the world. Cosmetics, since the age of industrialization, has been something that is largely, if not solely, marketed towards women, at least up until very recently. Look at 1940s and 1950s marketing and you will see that cosmetic advertisements were only associated with the most upheld women by the patriarchy standards. I mean, you look at those ads and you're like, wow, the gender roles were severe. The way in which marketing is conducted nowadays is pretty different, considering that a lot of companies have realized maybe we should promote responsible messaging when it comes to our products. A lesson that is still being learned. But even when I first entered the makeup industry, I never saw any advertisements that featured men wearing makeup. It was not that long ago that male influencers were arising in the beauty space and makeup companies were ashamed to even associate with them. This heavy leaning and inclination for cosmetic companies to only feature women wearing their products reinforces the idea that these products are solely meant for women. Not to mention the bullshit societal expectations rooted in misogyny that expect women to be perfect all the time and thereby need to purchase a bunch of products in order to feel as perfect as possible. Thankfully, over the last, I'd say, 5 years, we've seen some dramatic changes for the better, and controversial reasonings why aside, it is refreshing to see the industry changing for the better. But I do think that we still need to push companies to do better and that we need to destigmatize makeup and cosmetics as something meant for women and that it should be accessible by anyone who's interested, regardless of what gender they are. So we know that marketing and advertising plays a huge role in shaping the way that people perceive cosmetics and who it's affiliated with. But the other reason I believe that we consider makeup and cosmetics to be feminine is because of Christianity. I know for all the Christians watching, the alarm bells are ringing off the hook, but don't worry, I am not here to, well, unreasonably bash Christianity. I think there are amazing aspects of Christianity, and a lot of people in my life who I dearly love are Christian. But that does not come without adequate and appropriate criticism. You don't have to do a lot of searching to see that American Christianity often perpetuates very specific gender roles, and particularly for men to be the protectors, providers on assignment from God. In my personal experience growing up in the Mormon church, this type of rhetoric was repeated every Sunday, to the point that men and women would split up to go into different classes, and men were instructed on how to exercise their divine power of manhood. And growing up, it was really sad to watch this rhetoric transform these innocent kids into highly insecure adults. Men who had to over-exaggerate their manliness as not only a sign of power to others, but on direct assignment from God. And this experience was so extreme where I was growing up that guys my age were terrified of even touching a man on accident, for fear of that action appearing feminine. I need to stop using air quotes so much. I feel like it's communicating my bias when this should be unbiased information. I even knew fathers who never hugged or snuggled their kids because it was a woman's calling and they feared it would make them appear feminine. That is how deep this shit runs in many forms of American Christianity. There's this hyperfixation of appearing strong and masculine and manly, and so often strength is associated with being devoid of weakness. And anything that would associate men with weakness is instantly connected to femininity. Isn't that interesting? Not fucked up at all. I was reading an article by Jonathan Merritt where he mentioned that the #1 selling book on Amazon in the category Young Adult Christianity was, listen to this, Manual to Manhood, How to Cook the Perfect Steak, Change a Tire, Impress a Girl, and 97 Other Skills You Need to Survive. That was my straight voice. That's the best I can do. Respectfully. What the fuck does this have to do with Christianity? American Christianity continues to promote this idea of manliness that not only directly contributes to the continuation of the patriarchy, but trickles down so far that it heavily impacts the way we see something as distant as cosmetics. And I wanted to mention this because identifying this problem and taking action to change it will help to dismantle this idea of anti-femininity that continues to run rampant within American Christian communities. So we know that men do focus on physical appearance. We see that cosmetics have been used by men for thousands of years, and we now understand why in the modern day cosmetics are associated with femininity and all that patriarchal bullshit. But the thing that continues to boggle my mind is why skincare is considered effeminate. Because like I said before, I continue to get comments and criticism saying that me talking about skincare is feminine and it's not something that a man should be participating in. Now this might seem obvious for some of you who have watched my skincare videos, but my approach to skincare has always been one that's primarily associated with investing into your health. not purely for aesthetics. Obviously, this is not me dragging makeup or saying that skincare is not like the other girls. Hell, I used to be a makeup artist. I used to do a full cut crease on this face. Not pretty times. I do think that taking care of your skin is more focused on investing in your health rather than how your skin appears. But according to a lot of men, skincare seems to be entirely focused on making yourself look good. So if that's your mindset, if you were to say that skincare is rooted in aesthetics as opposed to investing in your personal health, why wouldn't the same be said about brushing your teeth, taking a shower, washing your clothes? A man may say, well, those things can impact your health and are a necessary part of self-care. And skincare isn't? I talk about all of this to paint a picture that a lot of the arguments that people use in opposition of men taking care of their physical appearance, investing into the health of their skin, or wearing makeup is just plain bullshit. There is no weight to these arguments. The math is not mathing. But, my friends, I do have good news to bear. This societal attitude towards traditional masculinity and femininity is changing more in the past 5 years than I have seen it change in my entire life. And I think Gen Z has a lot to do with it. I love you guys. Every time I scroll through TikTok, I see more and more cis hetero men using skincare, wearing skirts, sporting nail polish, or unapologetically wearing makeup, while still being comfortable in their own identity. Having a blend of feminine and masculine traits expressed in a way that's not superior or overbearing is becoming more and more celebrated, and I'm personally shocked at how rapidly Gen Z is embracing it. And I will say, we have had monumental moments in the past that have helped to create the path for all of this to happen. The 1960s hippie movement, pop icons in the 80s blurring the lines of gender roles and expression, the Supreme Court legalizing gay marriage, etc., etc. These current changes would not have been possible without these prior accomplishments and leaders. But regardless, I'm very encouraged to see how young people are rejecting traditional gender roles, embracing male femininity, and working to dismantle the patriarchy as best as they can. And keep in mind, most of that demographic isn't even old enough to buy a drink. Imagine all the societal progression we'll see when they're adults. So I've talked about a lot of concepts in this video, and honestly, I can make a video about every single one of these points that I've illustrated, but I want to finish with how we can continue this societal progression. First, normalize men getting in touch with their feminine characteristics. I think it's important that we allow every individual to explore and participate in whatever expression they feel most comfortable with. And if that's traditionally regarded to be more feminine, okay, and it's okay. The way we can best normalize this is by accepting it and encouraging people to express themselves in the way that they are most happy, regardless of what bullshit gender roles that falls into. 2, we can stop viewing activities or expression through the lens of the binary. I personally think it's really unnecessary and really dumb that we view certain activities as more feminine or more masculine, as one being associated with women and as one being associated with men. And I think the more that we start viewing these things as not black and white, and instead focus on individual expression, it will destigmatize a lot of these concepts that are so difficult for a lot of men to accept. 3, celebrate and support people who are actively working against toxic masculinity and the patriarchy. This applies to anyone, but if you have seen a man who is actively expressing themselves in a non-traditional way, they've probably had to go through a pretty tough battle to be able to even get to that point, and probably face a lot of criticism either in their personal life or online life because of it, and I think they deserve our support. And of course, the more that we work against the patriarchy, the more we can create better futures for women and for men, because the patriarchy both negatively impacts women and men, as much as men don't want to admit that. And finally, revolution. No, I'm kidding, y'all. Unfortunately, change does take a while, but like I said before, I am very, very impressed with what Generation Z has been able to accomplish, and I think if we continue pushing for more acceptance, more women's rights, and more individual expression, I think we're going to see an incredibly positive change, not only in our society, but the entire world. And with that, I will end with, what do you guys think? Please comment down below with your respectful opinions on, well, everything that I mentioned in today's video. Like I said, this is a very controversial topic, and I know it's going to piss some people off, but honestly, I just had to share my personal perspective from both being online and within this space and seeing the criticism and negativity from that, but also just from what I've been able to see online. And I think this is a really important conversation to have, and even with all the progression that we've seen recently, there are still so many people who have a very traditional view and masculinity and femininity when it comes to cosmetics, and I think we need to break that down. And that starts with productive conversation, which I would love to see in my comment section, so please share your thoughts. If you guys have any more ideas of what topics I should cover next, please let me know in the comment section. I would love to see what you guys are interested in, because likely I'm really interested in it too. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you can see my videos every single week, and I will see you guys in the next one. Mwah.